All right, thanks for tuning in to Leading Forecast. And instead of talking about central Indiana's weather, I do want to focus on probably for the next week or so, Hurricane Isaac, because that is the top weather story right now, and that's the primary thing that the weather community is starting to look at. Going on over, this is as of 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Tropical storm Isaac was moving off to the west at 22 miles per hour, located at 60.0 north and 61.2 west, with a sustained wind of 45 miles per hour. So that makes it about a mediocre tropical storm, but we do expect this thing to continue to develop and eventually make it into hurricane status, probably before it makes landfall early Friday afternoon, potentially right on the Haiti-Dominican Republic coast. Going on over, taking a look, current watches and warnings for this thing. We do have hurricane warnings in effect for the southern coast of the Dominican Republic. We have hurricane watches in effect from Haiti and also over towards Puerto Rico, places like that. You do have those hurricane watches and warnings in effect. Taking a look, this is the current water vapor satellite imagery, and you can see there's our storm down here. One of the things we look for when we're trying to forecast, especially the intensity of these hurricanes, becomes dry air, because you have to have moist air or the dry air goes in and just totally tears the hurricane apart, or the tropical system apart. And we do have some dry air out here. I think that'll become more saturated, and really at this point it's really not super dry like we see out into the Atlantic with a high pressure center that's sitting out there. So I think as this thing moves off to the west and eventually the northwest, that's going to be the thing. There's really nothing out there that's going to hurt this hurricane in terms of strengthening, other than the potential for it to eventually go over places like Haiti and Cuba, where there's a lot of mountainous regions that could tear this thing apart. Going on over, this is the enhanced satellite image, and you can see the IR. And some of this convection that's blowing up, these deep purples, reds, and even whites at times, that's convection going on. This is telling me that this storm is starting to really strengthen and probably will eventually become a hurricane over the next few days. Taking a look, this is kind of the model spread that we have right now. These models bring it anywhere from just off the eastern coast of Florida up towards clipping the southern peninsula, which is actually the way the Hurricane Center have it right now, to just going off the west coast here and moving off towards like the Panama City over towards Tallahassee, somewhere right in there. We do have a couple of models here that I've added in. One of them is the Canadian model that brings it more up into the east coast, and then the European model, which is a very reliable model as well, that brings it more over towards Mobile Bay, Pensacola, somewhere in that general area, potentially all the way west to New Orleans. Now, I'm not saying everybody should get nervous there, because we're still a very, very far off from exactly where this is going to go. The big players for this storm, as for any tropical system, is going to be a trough. This trough really probably won't have a lot of say, because there's some high pressure centers out here. These are going to be our main players on exactly where this is going to go. These are going to kind of help this trough move off to the north. What this trough would do, if it would stay south, is turn this storm that is now sitting right here as it tracked. It would get caught up in this trough and kind of turn it off to the northeast. Whereas now we have a high pressure ridges that are going to try to build in. And if you don't know, low pressure centers will go around these ridges. They'll kind of ride these ridges like around the rim, and that will help guide it. So the thing we're trying to forecast here is where the high pressure ridges are going to build in over the next week or so, and that's just something we're going to have to wait and see. It's something that's there's very small detail in, and we're going to have to be very precise with that and just watch the weather pattern. Going on over, this is the forecast model from the GFS. We're taking a look at winds. This is as we get into today, or later today. You can see there's Isaac sitting down here. Some of these winds going tropical storm between 40 and 45 miles per hour. As we get into Saturday, we skip a few days. Still have tropical storm winds on the east and northeast side of this, as it does start to pass over the eastern portion of Cuba. And then as we get into Sunday, riding right along the Cuban coast, we have tropical storm winds that could be impacting the Florida Keys, in fact down towards the Glades even, and that's as we get into late Sunday. As we get into Monday, here we go, trying to make landfall somewhere between Tampa and the Everglades again. Tropical storm winds starting to overspread, probably portions of the Florida Peninsula, especially if this goes one way or the other. It'll depend, if this comes out a little farther to the east or to the west, you will get those more impactful tropical storm winds. And then as we get into Tuesday, again, Panama City here, Tallahassee sitting up here, looks like, according to the GFS as of now, it will make landfall there. But so many different scenarios. In fact, looking at the European model I was talking about earlier, this is as we get into Monday, and you can see the European model totally takes it a different path, bringing it kind of more up through this area, which would be the worst scenario for the simple fact it doesn't encounter mountainous regions, and it doesn't end up weakening, or at least that much, and then it takes it out into the Gulf, where the Gulf waters are very warm and there's low shear, so it allows this storm to really start to grow as we get into Tuesday, late Tuesday afternoon, about 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Here's a storm down here really starting to get its act together as a hurricane, and then as we get into about 8 a.m. on Thursday morning, here comes Isaac trying to make landfall as a very potentially a strong, significant hurricane here, impacting somewhere between Pensacola and New Orleans, right in the central portion of the Gulf. And again, it's going to rely, here's that, we were talking about the high pressure system, here's that high pressure ridge out here that is built in where it's just kind of riding the rim of that high pressure system. So there's a lot of different things that are going to come into play with this storm, and we'll just have to wait and see exactly how it goes. So we'll keep you updated over the next week or over the next few days as we do start to see Isaac become a hurricane and see exactly which path it's going to take. So thanks for tuning in. If you're down along the Gulf or the East Coast, keep a close eye on this thing.